Whether you're looking to acquire a practice or you're looking to sell a practice, you must understand how the bogeys inside the contract work. They can fluctuate, they can move around, but they can easily be used both to your advantage and your disadvantage. You just need to understand how. And by the way, if you want to know all there is to know about the valuation of your practice, the growth, the building of a very predictable, highly valuable practice, make sure you check out thepredictablepractice.com. Again, thepredictablepractice.com.
This is The Rare Advisor, proud to be a part of the Advisor Advancement Network and home of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. Your host is Mike Walters, CEO of USA Financial. He is an investment advisor representative of and securities are offered through USA Financial Securities, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
In the previous Rare Advisor, I just spoke to how to quickly calculate, actually the two ways to quickly calculate the valuation of a financial advisory practice. Now, that's a really handy tool, whether you're purchasing an advisory practice or whether you're selling an advisory practice. So it's not just for succession and retirement and transition. It's also on the other side of the equation. If you're outgrowing and building your business through acquisition. So make sure you take a look at that. But that always then creates the next conversation, which people seem to really get hung up in the weeds on what I call the bogeys. So some people call them bogeys, some people call them thresholds, some people call them floors, but just about every deal out there will have one form of a bogey or another. And now normally the way a bogey works is the bogey can be there really on either side of the equation to both protect either the buyer or the seller. So the typical bogey, where you see it most often, is it's a floor that creates some protection for the seller, but also some protection for the buyer. So let's just say the bogey is at 90%. What that means is that as long as the value of the practice maintains itself at its current level or up to 10% in decline, can't go below 90, then the payout to the seller will be the full agreed upon payout number. Now, if the valuation were to drop below 90, then it will go to a prorated adjustment. So let's say it goes down to 85. Well, now the seller is only going to get 85% of the payments that they normally would have agreed upon. So the way that this normally gets calculated is either based on revenue or assets under management or number of clientele or some formula that is agreed upon that combines those things. But just think in terms of revenue. That's the easiest way to do it. So if the firm had been running at $1 million of revenue, and now it's running at $920,000 of revenue, well, that's still above the 90% number, so they'll still get paid just as if it had been a $1 million deal. But if it falls down to $850,000 of revenue, then the payments to the seller are going to go prorated down to 85% of whatever that number had been. So it's going to drop by 15% accordingly. Now, you can also partake on the upside. So maybe a seller says, well, okay, if I can lose it on the downside, then I want to be able to gain it on the upside. And I really want to help you in this transition. And I want to make sure that not only does this business come in play, but we comb through the existing client base and we identify the assets that maybe I didn't previously get. I'm going to help you get them in the new deal. So therefore, if the value of the firm increases by over 5%, then I get an increase in the payments as well on a prorated basis. So they can go either way. But it depends on if you're a buyer or a seller, how you might want to negotiate that. But it is important to understand that they all pretty much have these bogeys in the deal. So sometimes people get surprised by these, but they are almost always there.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.